Well, Save Jerseyans, we're here today talking with Mayor Mike Halfacre. He is the mayor of Fairhaven, which is up in Monmouth County. He was elected back in 2007, or elected in 2006, took office in 2007, correct?
That's right. Took office January 1st, 2007.
And since then, on the Republican side of the aisle, you've really been a fiscal conservative leader, both in how you've governed Fairhaven and also took stands on in our larger statewide dialogue. Appreciate you answering a few questions and coming to say hi to us today.
No problem at all. Thank you for very complimentary. I appreciate that. It'd be nothing greater than to be known as a fiscal conservative in this day and age, I'll tell you.
Well, we're dying breeds, so
yeah.
We have to celebrate it when we find one.
No,
the first
keep
thing
hope alive, Matt. Keep hope alive.
That's right. The good kind of hope, right?
Right.
The first thing I wanted to ask you, for people who aren't from your part of New Jersey, who may not be as familiar with you or your candidacy or the things you have going on in Fairhaven, could you maybe give us a little brief biography and tell us, how you got started in politics and some of the good things you've been trying to accomplish?
Sure. Well, I'm a lawyer. I was a political science major. I always was interested in politics. I come from a very political family. My parents were committee people in our town in Fairhaven. When I was growing up, I was very active in all kinds of political campaigns. In fact, just last night I saw Marie Mueller, who is a longtime Monmouth County Republican who ran for Congress in 1980. And that was the first political campaign I worked on. I was in 8th grade. And I just saw her last night for the first time in many years, and she didn't remember me working on her campaign, obviously, but I remembered her. I think I still have the thank you note that she wrote me for helping her out on her campaign. But I've always been around it, and as a small-town lawyer, that's kind of what we do, a local lawyer, country lawyer. You get involved in your town, you get involved in the area where you practice, and that's what made me get involved. I initially ran for Board of Education in Fairhaven. I then was appointed to fill a vacant council seat, and then ran for a term on council in Fairhaven. This is back 12 years ago now, and to be honest with you, I didn't like being on council back at that time. I was young. I was on council when I was 26 years old. And whether I was impatient or whether I was young and inexperienced, whatever it was, I didn't enjoy it. So some business opportunities came up, and I left politics, and I left elective politics anyway, and pursued my practice as a lawyer until it reached a point back in the mid 2000s where I was unhappier not being involved than I was when I was involved. It seemed to me, and I felt that the town I grew up in, Fairhaven, was going in the wrong direction, and I thought I could help. So I ran for mayor. And I won. I beat an incumbent who was an independent, who had been elected in a landslide victory 4 years before. I beat him by a fairly, modest amount of votes, 117, but who's counting? And I love being mayor. I really love being the mayor of my town. But I see, again, on a larger scale, things in the state of New Jersey and over the past few months in our country. I'm not happy with the way things are going. And just like I wasn't happy when I decided I should run for mayor, I'm not happy, and I feel obligated to make an effort to change things and to change the direction that we're headed. And that brings us to where we are today, which is challenging Rush Holt in the 12th District.
Comes the discontent, and that the discontent with the status quo. You say that's what got you back involved in politics. It seems like you're certainly not alone right now in New Jersey. If the polls are any indication, people are tired of the spending, the property taxes, the way that Trenton just outright abuses the people that work hard and pay for this state to work. I thought briefly maybe you could tell me a little bit about why you decided to support Chris, because you endorsed him early on during the primary. And also maybe some general observations about where you see the race today.
Well, I think I've answered this question about Chris over and over again. I was a Lonigan supporter because when I made a decision to support somebody, Lonigan was the only horse in the race. After Chris entered the race and I got to know Chris, I did I did my homework. I reached out to Chris. I reached out to his people, just as I had reached out to Lonigan and Lonigan's people. Hank Budehorn. I've known Hank Budehorn for probably 10 years. So you know, I was very comfortable with that campaign. And then after I got to know Chris Christie and some of the people he was surrounded with, you know, Joe Carrillos is a Monmouth County guy. Joe Oxley. My first job out of law school was working for Joe Oxley.
No kidding.
Yeah. You know, so that you know, that law firm is no longer around. Joe left the practice of law at the time. I mean, he's back in it now, but he left when he became sheriff in Monmouth County. But so I've known people in both camps for years. And as I learned more about Chris Christie, I just came to the belief that he was the guy. And that's why I came out and endorsed him. I mean, I don't believe I have any great, you know, voice, frankly. I'm not afraid to speak my mind. And I'm lucky because I have a relationship with a guy like Art Gallagher at More Monmouth Musing, that when I throw pen to paper, he's willing to put it up on his blog. And that's what happened. And you know, then we have some folks on a couple of other websites. All of a sudden, you know, because I made a reasoned, thoughtful, planned out decision, all of a sudden I'm a bad guy to a certain segment of our party, and I'm sorry for that. But Chris Christie is the guy that's going to lead us out of this.
You can't make everybody happy, and if you're making everybody happy, then you're probably not doing the right thing. That's the way I generally look at it.
Well, you know what? That's a great way of putting it.
If you make a principled stand, you're going to anger people.
If you try, I've said this for a while, especially since I've been mayor, because one of the things, don't confuse, I tell people, don't confuse decision-making with being a bad leader. Leaders have to make decisions. And by the very nature of making those decisions, someone's going to be unhappy. If you try to make everybody happy, like maybe the guy in the State House right now is doing, or has done, eventually you're going to make everybody unhappy. And that's what President Obama is going to find out. And that's what Corzine is finding out. They can't make everybody happy.
Yeah, if these town halls are any indication.
Yeah, the Democrats are going to learn their lesson. You know, here's the thing. I'm not the first person to say this. The Democrats are parties of coalition. The Democrats are a coalition party. The Republicans are a party of principle. And that's what we got to stick to. That's our brand. You know, you hear all this talk about rebranding the Republican Party. No, we have a brand. We just got away from it. You know, if we stick to our brand, which is a party of certain principles, economic and otherwise, we're going to do fine. Because the coalition can't hold together forever. You see that happening right now. Obama's coalitions are breaking up. The people that put him in office aren't happy with him because he's not doing enough. The people that didn't put him in office aren't happy with him because he's doing too much. It's all going to crumble.